Hey everybody, welcome to Moving Matt. We do vlogs, travel, and some camera stuff. And today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 most anticipated cameras of 2021. I did a 2 at the end of one. And I've been kind of cooped up in my studio as of lately, and it was, well, not really a pretty day, but at least it wasn't raining today. So I figured I'd get outside and do this list, but I'm not gonna really waste a whole lot of time. I'm gonna get right to the list. So at number 5, we have the EOS R Mark II. Don't you love how creeks look absolutely beautiful when it's really cold outside and you can't get in it? So I know the EOS Mark II, thanks Philip Bloom for ruining how I say everything, is technically not going to be called the EOS Mark II, but since it's taking that general price range, I'm going to call it the EOS Mark II for now. So if you're unaware, Canon Rumors has been talking about a camera that's going to be taking the place of where the EOS R is right now as far as price range, so probably around the $1,600 to $2,000 mark. And we don't know too much about it, but I think a given is that it's going to have 4K 30 with no crop. And I hope it's going to have that same 30 megapixel sensor that is in the original EOS R, which I'm actually recording on right now. And I believe it will have 2 card slots. And really, if you think about it, Sony doesn't have anything that's really competing in that area, especially if the 4K 30 is in 10-bit, which I believe it will be. And that's why I think it's a really good opportunity for Canon to come out with this camera, and that's why it makes my number 5 on this list. So with number 4 on my list, this is a camera we really don't know 100% if it's coming, but there's been a lot of rumors about it, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And that is the Fujifilm XH2. So the original XH1 was supposed to be the flagship camera for Fujifilm, but it kind of came out at a weird spot. It came out about 6 or 7 months before the XT3, and the XT3 was far superior to it. But some of the things that the H1 had over the XT3 was in-body image stabilization. It was a slightly larger body, and that was 2 years before the wildly popular XT4 brought it. So I really think Fujifilm could have like an $1,800 to $2,100 flagship camera that maybe does 4K 120 at 10-bit instead of the 4K 60 that we get out of the T4. It'll be a slightly larger body so it can deal with the overheating, maybe improve the autofocus and the in-body image stabilization with the larger body. I really think that they have an opportunity here, and I really don't see other cameras playing in their league at the APS-C sensor size. Sony was doing it for a long time, but it seems that they're abandoning that, and Canon may be having an R7 come out, but those are still speculation as well. So right now it's a lane that Fujifilm are in on their own, and I think it would be great to see a flagship camera come out of that APS-C style camera. And another thing that could improve would be the color science, because we all know the Fujifilm color science is terrible. Just kidding, okay, just kidding. They're excellent. So literally just improve the IBIS, the autofocus, and give us maybe 4K 120, be excellent, and that's why it's in my number 4 pick. So this quarantine 15 is turning into quarantine 20. Haven't really been able to work out near as much. I used to hear Casey complain about the EOS R's weight, and I didn't know what he was talking about, but no hard workouts, and I really feel it. Okay, do I get some echo? Oh God. So for my number 3 pick of my most anticipated cameras for 2021, I have the Sony A93. And there's a lot of confusion on what this camera will be, if it's going to be the A9S or the A9X. Sony Alpha Rumors, you're really reliable sources. But I really do believe it is going to be the A93, and I do believe it's going to be that 45 megapixel sensor and go with the 8K. And one of the reasons I say that is because also the Z9 from Nikon is also going to be playing in that range of the 45 megapixel 8K. And I've heard from sports photographers or people that are working around that industry that 8K is actually going to be a pretty big deal for them, because if they can basically record an 8K, I think it's about a 32 megapixel image that comes from a still of an 8K camera. So I don't 100% know that to be factual. So maybe if you're a sport photographer, you can drop in the comment section below and let me know. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but that is something I heard. So this camera is supposed to have a 45 megapixel sensor, do 8K 30. It'll have the awesome EVF and things like that. I think the new menu system from the Sony A7S III. I believe it will have a better screen. Tony Northrup was saying that he'll believe it'll have about 25 frames per second with no blackout. I think that'd be pretty incredible if they can do that with a 45 megapixel sensor. But if they can, that's awesome. And if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Sony. And that is why the Sony A93 takes my number 3 pick. I didn't even plan it. I really didn't. I always think it kind of funny on vlogs how people just show up at random backgrounds to say their next point. Like, why would you ever even be here? I'm just out here hanging out beside a barn. Yep, that's what I do all day. So my number 2 pick is probably a lot of your number 1 pick, and that is the Sony A74. And it's going to be the follow-up to, I believe, the most successful mirrorless camera there's ever been, which is the Sony A7 III. It was really revolutionary in what it did because the Sony R3 had just came out, and it was an excellent camera, of course, but no one really expected them to put that many features into the base model. So that really set the standard and the bar, and it's really only been surpassed this year by other camera manufacturers. So I really believe that the A7 IV is going to be an amazing camera, and I think that they're actually going to be pushing the boundaries more than some of the rumors that have been coming out about it. So the rumors so far are saying it's going to have 4K 60, which is kind of like a duh for that camera. Of course, it's going to have incredible autofocus. They say that the screen's still going to suck, but I believe it's going to be the new menus and will definitely give you the flip screen. The EVF, they're saying that it's going to be below where the Sony R4 is, which is well below where the Sony A7S III is. I can see that possibly being the case, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the same EVF that's in the R4 because, you know, you could be saving on manufacturing costs since you're already making that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that $5 million EVF in it. But I do think that they're going to do a few things differently. The rumors so far are saying it's going to have between 30 to 32 megapixel sensor and not be adapting that same 24 megapixel sensor that's been in the other cameras. And where most of the rumors are saying 4K 60, I believe they're actually going to have 4K 60 10-bit, but I do think that they might do a 6K 30, and I think a lot of people are thinking I'm crazy for thinking that, but just knowing what they did with the A7 III makes me think that they're going to do something to shake up the industry. And I don't think that they want to be playing from behind, because basically all the specs they're listing off right now can be found in the Canon R6, and that's why I think that they're going to change something up a little bit, and we'll see. But that's why it's my number 2 most anticipated camera, and for a lot of people it's probably the number 1 most anticipated camera of 2021. Jesus, I'm out of shape. And for my number 1 camera of 2021 is the Canon R1. I think that the R1 is an extremely exciting camera. I believe it's probably going to be out of my price range, and it's probably really not designed for someone like me, but just the fact that it's going to be the flagship camera and some of the rumors that we're getting out of that camera is pretty insane. We're hearing about 20 possible stops of dynamic range using the dual gain sensor that you get out of like the C70. You're hearing about incredible crazy 4K 60 HQ, which is going to be downsampled from 6K. Definitely believe we're going to be getting 6K out of this thing. You know, the photo specs are supposed to be the fastest photo camera that's ever been out from Canon, and I definitely think that those photo specs are extremely likely because this is Canon's flagship. I'm also hearing about a global shutter and better autofocus, possibly a quad core autofocus, whatever that even means. I guess 4 instead of 2. All of this sounds incredible, and maybe it's a little outlandish and we're not exactly sure what's really going to be in it, but Canon Alpha Rumors has been pretty spot on with their R5 stuff, so I think that the R1 is a definite thing, and I think a lot of these specs will be in it. A few of the things that I worry about is either they're going to price it way out of my price range, which is kind of likely, but probably between $6,000 to even $8,000. I would like it come in maybe between the $5,000 and $6,000 to kind of play along with the Sony A93, and I think that they really need to be competitive with that. The other thing I would like them to add is a flippy screen, just because if I ever want to get it, I want it to have a flippy screen, and I don't necessarily know if it will, because it's not necessarily designed for people like me and for vloggers. But I do think that a lot of vloggers, at least travel vloggers, like I like to do sometime in the future when people can travel, I think a lot of them would enjoy having a flip screen, and I don't think it really hinders anybody else. So anyways, that is my top 5 picks. Drop in the comment section below and let me know what are your top 5 picks for most anticipated cameras of 2021. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.